We're going to move quickly on to innovating to bridge the skills gap in Africa. And this panel is going to be chaired by Bou-Harb, who's the Senior Director of Education for Middle East and Africa for Microsoft. Good morning, Harb. And the Honourable Bagalatia Arone, who's Minister of Basic Education for Botswana. Please come to the stage, Minister. And, I do have a footnote. Sorry, the South Sudanese delegation landed at 4 o'clock this morning, so they are here. So thank you very much. We have Shadrack Dongri, who's the Director General, and is just caught up on the issues to be discussed. But thanks for making it to the panel. And then we have Leonard Amunime, who's the Senior Education Officer for Ministry of Education in Namibia. And then we have Aboubacar Coulibaly, who's the Chief Technology Officer for National and Technical Education and Vocational Training from Cote d'Ivoire. And Michelle Tebeila, who's the MIT Director for Education from Mpumalanga Province in South Africa. So we have Botswana, South Sudan, Namibia, Cote d'Ivoire, and Mpumalanga, South Africa.
Good morning, everyone. I hope in the back you can hear us well. As we introduced, the purpose of the panel, this panel is to talk about how to bridge the skill gap, the 21st century skill gap. If we do a review on the 21st century literature, we found that education must be upgraded for learners to be able to thrive in the new global economy. And this is what we're going to discuss with Honorable Minister and distinguished guests in this panel this morning. And we'll see how the respective countries are preparing themselves and preparing the youth for the new future job roles. Honorable Minister, good morning. So based on the 2018 Future of the Job report released by the World Economic Forum, they say that the new job roles that are expected in the near futures are completely different from the current one. So what is Botswana doing for the education system in order to prepare the learners for that future role?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and good morning to everyone. Maybe before I directly answer the question, let me make the following observations. You know, yesterday, as I was listening to the presentations, I then looked at my officials and said to them, what are we doing here? We should be back in the office implementing, because whatever presentations are covering here, we've done it. But I want to thank the presenters because they highlighted where the problems in Africa are. Our priorities, as I assured this gathering, that as Botswana, we've made it very clear as government. Personally, in the Ministry of Basic Education, I've been instructed, because the President is very clear that we are going to use education as our long-term strategy to diversify the economy of our country. Now, having said that, I also want to make the following observation, that job creation and income generation are vital for economic growth in any country. And these, in turn, depends on the availability of appropriate education system. That's very clear in our country and is well pinned in our National Development Plan 11, where after lessons that we've learned from our past programs, we have prioritized monitoring and evaluation, and we've envisaged that in our Vision 2036. Coming back to the education system, of course, we are well aware. As a country, we came up with the Human Development Council, specifically to Human Resource Development Council, specifically to advise government on the skills mismatch, to try and look at the current job environment, the future job environment, and that in turn then would inform the curriculum outlook. We are on the verge of starting to implement phase by phase the education and training strategic plan, which emphasizes the introduction of different pathways that learners would take. But emphasis is on ICT skills. Emphasis on technology skills, because as you have correctly saw, Mr. Moderator, the job market is going towards that line. And of course, to augment that, the government has also established thematic working groups to identify how skills will be developed to address the country's ambition to become a knowledge-based economy. And at the same time, the government has also put in place what we refer to as special economic zones. And that, again, will talk to the different models of the pathways that would be delivered in different regions based on the resource. For example, if we take the western part of Botswana, that's the hub of tourism. We want the curriculum to talk to the tourism-related jobs in that area. The Rantse region, that is the southeastern western part of our country, that's more as the desert. That's where agriculture, cattle rearing, and small stock rearing do very well. And we want the curriculum itself to talk to that, so that employment issues would not become a challenge for the learners in those areas. Generally, the strategy, Mr. Moderator, is based on the education system. And as I've said, priority is to ensure that our education system, the learning patterns are of the modern trends, to ensure that our kids have what skills needed in today's market. Lastly, how do we then achieve that in the education system? Of course, the presenters yesterday made it very, very clear. Resources, availability or lack of it cannot be a barrier to the provision of quality education. Our priority as Botswana is to ensure that we have the right leadership in our schools, is to ensure again that we have the right teachers. That's very, very critical, to have the right, well-trained and capacitated teachers in place. Mr. Moderator, I would love to stop there on what we are doing as a country. Thank you.
So if I can summarize, so basically is diversifying the economy, doing a skill mismatch, forming the Human Development Council, and looking at different pathway for learner. I like the part you mentioned about the west side on developing the tourism ecosystem. So, and then you talk about multiple phases. Can you share with us which phase you're on and on that journey?
Thank you very much. The ETSSP strategy talks to the importance of early childhood learning. So out of the 755 primary schools that we have in the country, we have managed to introduce pre-primary education in 735 primaries. That alone is critical also to address the issue that one of the presenters from the US was talking about of multilingual education. As Botswana, we use one language despite many languages that we have in the country. There is a reason for that. It can be discussed. But we have realized that it has affected learning patterns of more especially those children who do not speak the language at home. Now, the introduction of early childhood learning in our primary schools has helped us to bridge that gap. And at the same time, we also made it clear that we have teacher aides in those primaries to try and assist. And of course, the introduction of ICT, in other words, our primary schools are being made compatible to the use of ICT learning through the TutorNet that I will talk about.
We're going to play the video by the end of the panel session on the TutorNet.
Right.
Okay, I'll move now to Mr. Shadrack. How are you?
Why?
Good?
Good.
Look, at Microsoft, we've done a research in collaboration with McKinsey and Co. And that research findings were that 375 million people has to change their job, the way they're doing work today, by 2030. So it's not that far, 12 years from now. And we have 375 million people that they have to change role. So I know that you have an initiative in South Sudan for the teacher education program. Can you tell us how you're preparing the student through that initiative for the global economy and for the future?
I'd like to just make a little correction. Aboubacar Coulibaly from the Ivory Coast, not from South Sudan. Regarding the question that you posed, what I would say in Cote d'Ivoire, basic education K through 12, the education there it's a lot of theories, no hands-on. There's very little STEM practice, and the quality is pretty poor despite all the efforts that we've done over the past 7 years. And the focus there is really preparing kids to just pass exams and move to the next stage of their life. Now, technical and professional education, it's normally for kids that have failed in the normal education system. They go to technical and professional education. So it's not an attractive sector. A lot of parents don't want to send their kids to the technical and professional schools. So the sector is not attractive. Now, in terms of teacher training, most of the teachers, people that go into the teaching profession, are not people that necessarily love the profession. These are people that have tried to get out of jobs, and when they couldn't get any jobs, they come to teaching. In the Ivory Coast, sometimes when we launch the hiring of teachers for 5,000 positions, we have 85,000 applicants, sometimes 90,000 applicants. So it shows that a lot of people are just looking for jobs, not necessarily jobs that they want to do. Also, we have poorly skilled teachers. Now, if the teachers are poorly skilled, if they teach the kids that are going to come out of those schools are also going to be poorly skilled. So we need to make sure that we have skilled teachers so that we can produce highly skilled graduates. And also, one of the things that's lacking is really 21st century skills. If the teachers don't have 21st century skills, if the teachers don't know how to give kids 21st century skills, if you look at the current system, it's teacher-centric. The teacher has the knowledge, and he gives the knowledge to the kids. So the teacher does not give the kids the opportunity to think critically, to analyze issues, to provide solution to issues. So that makes it, with that kind of setting, you really create students that are not ready for the new jobs. So the solution that we're looking at is really work on a comprehensive strategy within the country that will take into account K through 12 and also higher education in a way that we can really have a very focused strategy on how to develop STEMs in the system. What we've done last year is hold a conference in the country where we invited higher education actors, we invited secondary school actors to discuss how do we change the landscape of teaching in the Ivory Coast. Because our goal is really to prepare our graduate for the new economy, the digital economy, and the only way we can do that is really Start from the bottom and then build it up. So for that that plan, the strategic plan for us had to involve issues related to infrastructure. If you're gonna develop a digital economy, if you're gonna develop kids that are ready for the digital economy, you need to have schools that have infrastructure that's really geared toward developing such skills. The teacher training has to be in part with what you want to achieve. If your teacher is not skilled, they're not trained properly, they will not be able to deliver a curriculum that's geared toward the digital economy. The private sector also has to be involved, because we believe the kids that we're training, the kids that we want, the graduates that we want to have, are going to be going to the industry. So there has to be discussion with the industry as to what they need so that we can prepare the kids for that industry. And also, if you're going to develop a digital economy, it has to be a whole ecosystem has to be in place. The school has to play their part. The private sector has to play its part, so that together we can really have that kind of economy. Because you cannot have a digital economy if you don't have the financial sector involved. If you have kids that are graduates that want to create companies, they need to have finances to build those companies. So it's as far as the Ivory Coast is concerned, our goal is really to redesign our school in such a way that we can prepare our graduate for the new economy. So that's really what we're working on today.
I like the part and the emphasis you put on the teachers' development, because this is very crucial. Yesterday there was a question whether the teacher role is going to disappear in the morning. So now you emphasize the importance of developing the educators, not only the learners, in preparation for the future and the new world.
Yeah, when we started work on ICT in education, one of the things that a lot of schools did was really buy computers. They kept buying computers, putting computers in the schools, and we quickly realized that that was not the way to do it. You bring in computers, bring in ICT equipment, and the teacher is not properly trained. The teacher are not even literate in terms of ICT, then it becomes useless. So, and the thing that we also realize is that the kids are a lot more prone to using ICT than the older people. So what we've done is really put the special focus on training the teachers and making the teachers ICT literate first. Yeah. So if the teacher is comfortable with using ICT technology, then it's easier for him to really redesign his own material, so that it really fits the purpose of ICT in education teaching.
Okay, thank you very much. So we move to the next panelist. The statistics says that 50% of the existing job will disappear in the next coming years, right? We still have a few years to get ready. I would like to hear what are you doing in your country in order to prepare the youth, the learner, in order to scale and then leverage the 21st century skills in order to be ready for that future.
Thank you very much. One, in Namibia, at least we make sure that, or we try to make sure that all the graduates from institutions are computer literate. This is done by making sure that at least all the institutions offering whatever course, they have computer literacy as one of the modules or the compulsory modules for their students. Now with this, I believe now that all the graduates have already, or they are already computer literate, it may be easier for a nation or maybe for a company or the industry to upgrade that person to the demand or to the required demand of that specific industry or so. Again, we also try to motivate the industry or the sectors to make sure at least that all the workers or their staff are up to date with ICT. And this is done through what we refer to as the contribution of training levy, whereby the industry is encouraged to upskill their staffs so that they can claim back 50% of 50% paid to the levy.
Okay.
Yes.
So it is like of twinning between the industry and the government to do that skill matching?
Yes. Now, when it comes to, like, for instance, in case of TVET, there is collaboration between the industry and the government.
Okay.
So we try to make sure that at least, even when it comes to the development of the qualification, the government involves the industry or the expert from the industry, because they are the ones that know the demand. They are the ones that know the challenges that they are experiencing. They are the ones that knows what they want to achieve, and they are the one that knows what skill is lacking in the industry.
This is very important because one of the PwC report is they're saying that report is claiming that there is the gap between the current job skills and then what the business skills is required is very widening, and 96%, and this is PwC claiming 96% of the CEO, African CEO, they're worried about the health of the organization because of this skills shortage. So that kind of programs probably will, instead of widening the skill gap, it will close on it, is by doing a mismatch between the industry. So what are the jobs needed for the industry and for businesses to deliver on their growth plans? That's a good one. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, we move to the next panelist. I would like the questions to be related is, how do we ensure student success and readiness for the future? If you can answer that question.
Well, students can be prepared by teaching them well. That's what you have to do. If you want them to take exams and succeed, you have to teach them well. But before I go ahead, I would like to apologize for my minister who is not here this morning. Two conflicting presentations came up, and he could not, of course, be in two places at one time. So he is presenting a paper now in South Africa, and he asked me and a colleague of mine who is sitting somewhere there to come and attend in his place. I actually asked him, what are we going to do? If you are not going, who will take the final decision? He said, there is no decision that is going to be taken. If at all there is a decision, I'll come back here and make a decision. It will not be made in Harare.
There are no decisions to be taken, just
no decisions.
Open discussion.
So I said, okay, fine. We will go then. But then again, the presentations the discussion I had here, Africans are the same and they have similar problems. And they become even more grave with people who have been fighting for many, many centuries. My country has been fighting with British, with the Turks, with the Arabs, and finally with ourselves. And it's only on the 12th of September that an agreement was signed between the opposing parties and the ruling government. So it has been very difficult to do the right thing. But again, my minister and the ministry have done a lot of things. Similar things which have been said here by former speakers have been done. The issues of in-service and issues of TVET, issues of SMASES. These things have been done. And I don't know how many countries among you here have done something they call alternative education system.
Yeah.
We have that program is to bring into education those who have been left out of education because of war. So soldiers with their children and their wives, and those who have not been to the school because of war. This program was planned in 2002. And the enrollment of that directorate now to education is similar to formal education. Internal alternative education system is an informal way of teaching. It's bringing a lot of people to education like the formal education. And we have, those are some of the things we are doing to.
And have you seen some outcome of this alternative education program yet with the soldiers? Have you
Yes.
able to merge them back into the
Yes.
workforce?
Yes. The plan of this is that 8 years of education is condensed into 4 years learning, and then after 4 years, they sit with the P8 children for the final exam to senior secondary school. And many of them have actually gone to secondary school and have even gone to university as a result of this alternative education system.
All right, thank you very much. Move to Ms. Michelle. How are you?
Okay.
Yesterday I was trying to see how I can pronounce your province, Mpumalanga. And I found out that Mpumalanga in Zulu means the place where the sun rises, right? So that's a good thing. I would like to hear from you about what you're doing about implementing and integrating the technology skills in the education system, in the basic education system in your province.
Okay, good morning. We say in Mpumalanga, when the sun rises, we work hard to deliver.
Okay.
Okay, and yes, indeed. In Mpumalanga, we have pockets of excellence where we're trying to integrate ICT into teaching and learning. We have 5 no-fee boarding schools. We want to make those boarding schools smart boarding schools where it's only they're using technology. There's no chalkboard or the old teaching and learning method. So we've started with the 5 no-fee boarding schools. We have 101 math and science technology schools where it's only math and science, math, science and technology. With the MSTA, we call them MSTA schools. With the MSTA schools, we have one school. If, say, in the 101 schools, there is one teacher who is good in mathematics, that one teacher will broadcast math lessons to all the 101 schools. So, but then the project, the way we are implementing the project is that from that one school, you can be able to watch the lesson from anywhere in the world. As long we give you a link, and then you can tune into the broadcast session. And then we have the Legbron project. Legbron project also, they do broadcast math and science lessons. And we have Shimungwe Seket. At Shimungwe Seket, we had European Space Agency. They donated ICT equipment, starting from connectivity to smart boards and tablets. So with that, we said the European Space Agency said they went to 1 second. 1 second is about 20 schools. So they connected, they started with the primary schools. They connected 18 primary schools, and those, the 18 primary schools, they gave them tablets, they gave them smart boards, laptops. So they are using technology. They're teaching, for teaching and learning. Last year, our learners from that circuit, Shimungwe circuit, they participated in the Einstein competition. They were competing with the European schools. So 5 of our learners, I think, yeah, 5 of our learners won the competition. So they were featured in the Einstein Legacy Project last year. So we do have, we are integrating ICT into teaching and learning, and I must say we are doing very well.
Yeah. If you don't mind, can you share with us the journey? How did you reach those 5 smart schools? So what kind of training you provided for your educators and for your learners? And then what are the learnings you have gathered from those 5 smart schools? And what's the expansion plan? So are you going to extend those 5 schools to how many schools?
Okay, I'll start with the lessons. How it all started. I must say, now with our teachers born before technology and all that, it's very difficult for us then to say, okay, you're going to start using technology, you're going to start using smart boards, you use a laptop and all that. So the teaching, we started by training the teachers, and it's an ongoing teaching, training. We start with the basic, we start them from basic, intermediate, and advanced. So with teaching, because then you find that when you do the audit, you go to some of the schools, you find that you gave them equipment, you gave them smart boards, they have laptops, but then some of the teachers, they are scared to use technology. But then now we're trying to say, okay, we provide you with equipment, and then every now and then we go back to the school to check, to monitor, are you using it? How are you finding it? But then now it's a slow process, progress, but then we are getting there.
Okay, thank you. I want to move to Mr. Aboubacar. There was a report produced by the World Bank on the challenge of building skills and why Cote d'Ivoire needs to reform its education system. Can you share with us what has led to that report from the World Bank?
Thank you very much for that question. Cote d'Ivoire is a country that has gone through various stages of development. From the 60s, from the independence to the early 80s, we experienced high growth. We built a strong school system. We had some of the best, I would say, some of the best schools in West Africa. And the schools were really technology focused. We had ICT in education was already in the system in Cote d'Ivoire back in the late 70s, because we had TVs in the classrooms. In every primary school there were TVs, and we would broadcast education content to the schools. Okay, we did that. And why did it fail? It failed because the teachers thought they could be replaced by the TV. The teacher would put the TV on and walk away and think that the TV would take over. So we went through that, and then we had all the crises that civil war, all the crises that took place in the country that really participated in the downgrade of the education system. So we were at the point back in up to 2010, we were at the point where the education system was really at a standstill. We're no longer building schools. The current schools were totally destroyed. The teachers were no longer controlling the schools, and really was total chaos. So after the war in 2010, the country went on really a rebuilding phase. We started rebuilding the school system. We started building new schools, rebuilding the old schools, fixing up the old schools, and really reestablishing basic teacher training, which was really lacking. If you look at the World Bank report, we spend a lot of money on education, but the result is just not in part with the money that's being spent.
And this started 2010.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
and still going on.
Yeah, we spend about 40% of the budget on education. It's really, but we're not happy about the output.
Yeah,
Okay,
by the
what
way,
we're getting.
25% spend is considered good, so 40% is very good.
It's very, very high, but
Yeah.
I think we need to do a lot of work in how to really make sure that the money is being spent properly.
Yeah.
That the teachers are getting the real support they need to really change the education system. Now, but what I can say is that there is a strong desire on the government part to really rebuild the system, especially build it in such a way that we could have our kids ready for the digital economy. So that will is there. I mean, the president has expressed that will, and it's really we're building policies around that. So if you look at it, we build a lot of new schools, and the schools are heavily fitted with technology. Okay, and we're putting a lot of emphasis on training teachers, really giving them literacy training, taking them from an initial stage of really giving them basic digital skills to taking them to the point where they can create content themselves and then make those content available. So it's really there is a strong will on the government side to transform the economy, which is mostly agricultural. We're primarily an agricultural country. We are #1 producer of cocoa in the world, but we know that we need to really diversify the economy, and the technology sector is an area where we really want to do that. And let me stress also that in terms of technology, what we want to do is move away from consuming technology, from just being good users of technology. What we want to do is make sure that we start looking at ways to create technology, because Africa has a culture, the Ivory Coast has a culture that needs to be digitized, and there's not going to be any better person than ourselves to digitize that culture. So what we're doing is really looking at introducing technology in the primary school all the way to the universities, so that we can really do that. And also it's important to understand that the schools are going to do their part, but the private sector, the industries also have to participate.
Yeah.
So we're engaging those sectors in helping us build this ecosystem, and that requires everybody's participation.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you. Honorable Minister, back to you. You recently stated that quality development is underpinning by quality of education. So what new resources Botswana is channeling into education
and nurturing the modern talents.
Right, thank you. Just go back a little bit and emphasize that when I said we have 755 primary schools, I'm happy to report that at least we as government, we've managed to provide computers to all the schools. The challenge now that we have is the connectivity part. With secondary schools, both junior and senior secondary schools, all our schools are completely integrated to ICT. Internet connectivity at secondary level is at 100%. Each and every secondary school has a full-fledged computer lab, and the teachers are well trained and they have got ICT schools. What we have been struggling to do, and thanks to Microsoft and Cortex, who recently assisted us now to upload our curriculum into the e-content. That alone, we are very, very thankful to Microsoft and Cortex. This will now make our movement in terms of implementation of the use of ICT in teaching and learning a reality this financial year. At the same time, we have started, Botswana, the lion's share, my ministry gets the largest of our budget. That alone it shows our commitment as government that there's nothing more important in terms of resources than the human resource of a country, and we are trying to position our people that they are globally competitive. Recently, we are working with Microsoft on a pilot project referred to as ICT Model School. We are doing 20 schools so far. 5 of them have been completed, and of course, this is an opportunity for us to ensure that we are ready. Now, in terms of the question of how much resources, as I've said, just to summarize it, most of our resources goes into education, and this education is both basic, secondary, and of course out of school education. I want to agree with my brother from Namibia that of course it's very, very important that companies and organizations put in place a training program to ensure that their workers are up to date with the needed skills in the present market, and that's what we achieve through the RDC, that is the Human Resource Development. There is a trend living that covers that. But I wanted to conclude, Mr. Moderator, by saying, the focus is into training. The question is, how ready are the markets themselves to receive the graduates? This is the challenge that we have in Botswana. The experience issue. Companies and organizations look for people who are experienced. This is also a challenge that in Botswana we are looking at to ensure that how do we make sure that our graduates get employed immediately. Not only, they will have the skills, but the companies will be asking for experience. We are dealing with that. And lastly, as government, part of our resources are going to ensure that, more especially the youth population, when they graduate, we are moving away from producing job seekers, but we are talking about producing job creators. But then as government, we are also obliged to ensure that the environment is facilitating enough for these young people to start their businesses. When they start their businesses, how supportive is the market environment itself to ensure that there is penetration. Therefore, Mr. Moderator and ladies and gentlemen, this is our focus as a country, and we are very optimistic that through our education system and the supportive environment, together we can achieve the empowerment and the transformation of our country. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. One thing on the readiness for the job market is that what the student can do is you can introduce industry certification into the curriculum. When you do that, for example, I go back to the Future Job Report 2018 released by the World Economic Forum. They say they have a list. It's a 147-page report. They have a list about what the future job will look like, right? We're talking about machine learning, blockchain, artificial intelligence, information security, and so on. So if you introduce those industry certification into the curriculum, so by the time the student graduates, he already has that industry knowledge, and employers are ready to take them on board. The challenge now is university graduate, right, tertiary graduate. When they graduate, employer like us, Microsoft, we look for experience, so we have to wait and invest at least 1 year in that resource in order to get him ready and start getting the ROI. So in order to save and shorten that 1 year of, okay, I can't find a job, I need to train until I find a job, is introducing that into the curriculum will accelerate that and will help that tremendously. And we can help with that. We can tell you what are the program. I think we're about to close. Okay, so just one final word on the 21st century skills and how to bridge the gap for Africa. There is a saying in life that there is no standstill in life. We're either moving forward or backward. So now it's the choice for the African continent to choose. Either take no action, which means you're going backward, or then accelerate and move forward. The technology, the tools are there. It's just for you to leverage. Industry expertise like Microsoft are there to work with you. Through our partner ecosystem also, we can help you through that journey. But there is no looking back. Honestly, collectively, we have to put the effort, and the journey will be fun and full of experience. We're gonna end with 2 videos, play 2 videos, but before the videos are rolled out, I would like to thank the panelists. Thank you for your contribution and for being here and for sharing the experiences. Can we roll out the videos?
Botswana is a sparsely populated country with just over 2 million people living in an area of 582,000 square kilometers. Since gaining independence in 1966, Botswana has performed exceptionally well economically, scoring one of the world's highest growth rates in the world. For a developing nation, Botswana has also nurtured its human resource by investing heavily on education. The Ministry of Basic Education gets the lion's share of the national budget. The ministry has adopted the Education and Training Sector Strategic Plan, which emphasizes the integration of ICT in schools to deliver a 21st century learner. To achieve this plan, schools are ICT enabled. The provision of modern computers and internet access has commenced. The design and implementation and ICT content and curriculum development program for primary and secondary is at its infancy. The design and implementation professional development among teachers in all schools is ongoing. The Ministry of Basic Education, on behalf of the government of Botswana, in conjunction with Microsoft Africa, has embarked on the Model ICT School program using Microsoft Office 365 platform called tutonet.ac.bw to support the ministry's vision to integrate ICTs in school curriculum. The initiative will transform public schools by introducing digital content to promote learning. A total of 20 schools out of an upwards of 1,000 public schools have been identified to pilot this transformational program in the coming 6 months.
Every generation has the opportunity to inspire those that follow in their footsteps, to pass along the wisdom, knowledge, and experience needed to reach new heights. Microsoft is working to create a better learning environment for every student with modern tools that are intuitive, collaborative, and accessible to all, so every student is empowered to achieve more. This is the modern classroom, where we go beyond memorization of facts and figures and a one-size-fits-all education. Where students learn in the way they learn best, on the tools they will use in the future. Where teachers create experiences that spark creativity, and everyone can collaborate anytime, anywhere. Microsoft Education, empowering the students of today to create the world of tomorrow.
Thank you.